can you talk us through firstly the process, the technical process that you engage with, and then talk us through the ideas that are behind it?
So for that piece, some of it is constructed and some of it is kind of like recorded in a sense where for the sculptures I used a technique called photogrammetry, where you take maybe like 100 photos of an object and you feed it into a computer program that analyzes those photos.
So they're real sculptures to begin with that you've reconfigured?
Yeah, and that's the Crawford Canova sculpture collection down in Cork. Yeah.
Right.
The computer program converts them into 3D models, and then you import them into the virtual environment, and that gallery space and what kind of proceeds after that is all kind of constructed, you know, so there's certain things which are real and attempt to be kind of like a little bit synthetic, and there are other things that are kind of, there's a lot of illusion going on, you know. Right. And then to actually make the video piece, you have this constructed space which is like, you know, it's on a computer screen, and you connect a camera to that line and you move the line all through the space and you tell it.
Now, are you doing this on a mouse or are you doing it with a pen?
And with the mouse. So basically what I do is take a kind of a vertical look at this kind of like this gallery space that I've constructed, and I draw a line like this. And obviously I tell it to go around the sculptures in whichever way I want, and then I go at a different angle and I tell it to go up or down or all those things. So it's a very kind of, it's very physical kind of camera track that both the focal point and the camera are constantly kind of like moving, you know. There's no like it doesn't stop at any point.
Right. And when you were studying this, you know, down in Crawford, is that what your tutors and your lecturers took you through, the technical aspects of how to render and how to program it? Was that the case?
No. So when I graduated, like it was actually during setting up my degree show, that's when I first learned how to do a plug, like, you know, like wire a plug, like, so I didn't really have many skills. So it was just over a year ago I started learning kind of animation. So I basically just like sat down.
So that is the fruit of 1 year's self-tutoring.
Yeah, YouTube is a great thing.
Folks, what are we waiting for? Why don't we all get involved in that? Okay, so beyond that, we saw a little bit of I wouldn't call it green screen, but you have this lovely green, unaccounted for, unarticulated space. Yeah. Why did you leave that in? Because I think to the untrained or to untutored eye, you may say to yourself, technical problem here, I'm looking at an incomplete work. Is that part of your decision?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I think like within filmmaking, the green screen is always kind of seen as like the incomplete space. You know, it's where things are yet to be. You know. Yeah. So I was quite interested in this idea of like the facade, the construction, the space that is like it looks like it's like solid. You know, like the kind of architraves and like all the like kind of architectural details, they look solid, but it's just this kind of facade, you know. And like within my work, I'm very interested in perception, how the mind kind of like perceives our like environment around us, and how we are limited by our senses, and we can only experience like light at a particular wavelength and whatnot. So like there's a lot of kind of like, in a sense, like illusion going on where your brain is interpreting information, and it's very kind of like rooted in technology and now, but now in a few years, you know. Okay, so the present in the future. Okay, I've mentioned virtual reality there, which brings me to Elaine's work. Barney, could we just Conor, could we lower the lights, please, and just go on to the next 3 stills? Sure. We have 3 stills of Elaine's work. This is from your work, your award-winning work, The Weight of Water.
That's right, and sorry there's no video because it's actually not a movie file, it's an app. It's a computer app, so the extension is EXE and it's not .mov, so that already kind of brings us into new territory about how we're going to view movies in the future. They're not necessarily going to be, they're going to be in real time perhaps, so they won't run sort of pre-rendered, they'll run in real time. So there's lots of kind of interesting things coming up in the future about the kind of future of this particular kind of filmmaking technology.
You said it's incomplete. It feels of a piece. It feels complete. You know, it's 3D. You can actually walk around inside your ideas, right? Which I think is very, very important for anybody who's going to, any artist. They've got to not just present the work. They've got to really, really think about it, because I think that's what makes it last. You know, two aspects that I'd like to focus on before we come to Elaine is. You came around a piece of sculpture and suddenly it changed texture inside. It immediately reminded me of the T1000. All of a sudden, you're looking at this body, which is very, very is shining and very, very smooth and silvery. Why did you think of that? Where did you think about that idea? And then secondly, that beautiful orb. I don't know whether you noticed this orb floating through the space. Sounding really shallow. What was that about?
So with the orb, like that was, I suppose, I had this video piece kind of in mind, and I wanted there to be a presence, but not initially I was thinking a human presence, but I wanted the sole kind of human focus to be on the viewer of the video piece. I didn't want you to look at this video piece and see someone else going around, because that would take you out of it, you know? Okay,
right. So we weren't a third person in there. Okay, so the camera, it's not a camera, but a disembodied vision, and then the orb.
And the orb is like, in a sense, it's like one of those kind of science fiction tropes of like something that is
like a probe?
A probe out there investigating, and it's always going into something that's unknown, and it's kind of collecting information. So you know, it's kind of, it's like a device, it's like a perceptual device for like exploring this, but the orb never does what you want it to do. Like it always just happens to go out of frame, and it's like, it's never kind of,
I think it reminded me a little bit of, I hope you don't hit me here, Prometheus, really poor film. But do you remember they sent the probes down those to map out the geographical space, and they were scanning stuff like that. And then I think if you're familiar with the very, very first Star Wars picture, when Luke Skywalker, he puts the visor on him, and there's this floating orb. So you're saying but it's interesting, you're saying that it's science fiction related, and it appears to me quite curious, or maybe it's quite obvious, that in modern animation and virtual reality, we are engaging with ideas of the science fiction genre. I mean, as we were talking before, you don't do rom-coms for virtual reality. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because of the like speculative nature of science fiction. Science fiction is always like looking at like what could be, you know, and it's
possible,
like,
right?
Yeah, it's always kind of like thinking about the future, and it's very kind of like rooted in technology and now, but now in a few years, you know.
Okay, so the present in the future.